So, starting off the Sheldon show, we have a couple interviews going today. The next one is, what is it to be Muslim American? So I'm still at Texas Wesleyan University in Fort Worth, Texas, and I have another student with me today who is Mui. He is Muslim American, and in light of all the different conversations that have been going on around the country and all that, I figured that this would be a good topic to have, to be able to sit down and talk to someone about what it is to be Muslim American, any discriminations that perhaps that he might face, and kind of his outlook and thoughts on the general issue of Muslim and that specific ethnicity. So join me as I talk to Mui about his social and personal identity. All right, so today I'm here sitting with Mui, who is a student here at Texas Wesleyan University, and we're going to have a chat. He's also of Muslim descent. We're going to have a chat today, first a little bit about who he is, and then we'll get into what it is to be Muslim American. We'll talk about a couple other things. So go ahead, Mui, tell us, for everyone's watching, who is Mui?
We'll start out with, I grew up in Portland, Oregon when I moved to America. I was born in Jordan and moved to America when I was 8. Grew up in Portland, moved to Texas when I was a sophomore in high school. And I've been playing football most of my collegiate career and high school career, did some semi-pro. So that's been really a point in my life, is like football, right?
All right. How old were you when you moved to the U.S.?
8 years old.
8 years old. So would you say you were old enough to kind of have a sense of establish somewhat of an identity to a certain point by the time you got here? You kind of already started to make sense of who you are. Would you say you were too young?
Well, at 8, I had a lot of plasticity in my brain, compared to an older person, so I can adjust more quickly than an older person coming in.
So the adapting when you came to the U.S. was a whole lot easier because of
I learned the language in about a year. I was at ESL in a year and a half, and it was very easy to adjust. American culture can just gotta watch what people are doing, and just be a good person overall.
When did you realize that you were Muslim living in America?
Ooh. When I moved to America, because we moved here in '02, which was a year after.
So that
was just getting here. It was like,
that was right after. Do you remember the reception that your parents got or you got as you were walking the streets, in Oregon?
Well, it was a mixed reception. Like, it was, different people had different, reactions and emotions towards us. For example, my mom was sitting at the bus stop one time and she got spit on by a guy driving back. But there was more good people than those people. So it's mixed overall.
Okay. So now, growing up and making sense of your identity in America, what was that like for you as you were turning into a teenager, into adulthood? Kind of describe or explain that experience.
Well, at first you'd feel like an outsider because you're still learning the language, even though you already learned, you're still behind on it. And you're behind on the social norms that come with being American. Like some of these kids, when you got to middle school, grew up together since elementary school, so they had that connection. So you had to find one way to fit in. Me, I didn't care. I didn't care about all that. I'm talking about basically for a normal, person trying to just. But that's what it was, and that's what I noticed was just generally trying to fit in and try to catch up to the other kids. It's a lot of catching up.
So what are let's expand a little bit more on some of the experiences that perhaps your parents had. What are perhaps so your mom was spat on, right? What are some of the other experiences that they have had or you've had as far as discrimination is concerned, being here in America?
A lot of it has been subtle. Subtle.
Give me some examples.
Okay, subtle. Well, I'll give you an example of a non-subtle one. I had this football coach in high school who would always make fun of me, call me terrorist, stuff like that. And I took it as a joking matter because this guy's ignorant. I'm not going to fight this guy. I'm not going to...
And he would actually call you...
Yeah, no, so one time we were doing cut drills, I played online, and he was like, I'm not going to say his name, but we were doing cut drills, and he was like, the point of cut drills to put your shoulders in, dip your shoulder in, and cut that guy in front of you, but we're doing it at the bag in practice, and it was my turn to go up, and he was like, cut it, Mui, finish it off, like it's a 9/11 survivor, and the whole practice kind of stopped. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
This guy's straight up ignorant, But that's when I wasn't even mad. I was like, this guy's just straight up ignorant. So
wow.
But that was a non-subtle.
That's non-subtle.
Subtle behavior, in class when you're discussing terrorists or terrorism in general, people kind of look your way. You cast a lot of eyes. So that to me, that's an example of subtle.
What's the worst besides the football coach? What's the worst thing that probably happened to you if you were walking out in public, or you're at a bar, or you went to a club, or?
Really nothing. Cause I get told I don't look Middle Eastern, so I kind of I've never really ran.
What did they mistake you for?
They actually think I'm half black, half white, Puerto Rican. I get a lot of Samoan. Or just something. I'm Jordanian.
So, in light of all the stuff now that's going on in the country, and I know you probably don't want to get too much into politics, right? But with the travel ban, and it seems like the rhetoric has gotten more intense in terms of hatred. And every time we hear the word Muslim, it's usually negative, right? It's usually a negative connotation. What do you think about what's going on right now in society, and then how do we change that discourse?
Well, remember, when did I have your class? 4 years ago? 3 years ago?
3 years ago.
3 years ago. Remember when we talked about the danger of the single story?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's the story that's portrayed about Islam and Middle Easterns and people over there, is just that they're terrorists. So when you go up to a guy, a white guy, for example, on average, not everybody, of course, and ask, what do you think of when you think of a Middle Eastern? What pops in your head? And they're gonna think, obviously, all that. What they see on TV. You notice they only cast Middle Eastern actors for the most part for those kinds of roles. So that plays a role in how people think. And then it goes back to the news too. They only report that, hey, Muslims are killing each other. But it goes back way further than that. The single story was painted years and years ago when, can I get a little political?
Go ahead.
All right, so what's the oldest world war? What's the oldest trick? People use the word. Divide and conquer.
Divide and conquer.
Right. So divide and conquer. So they made all the Muslims hate each other over there so they can fight each other and then conquer.
It was done in Africa by Europeans.
Right, so they just make them fight. Y'all go at it like some pit bulls, and we'll go in right after. And we'll make y'all look like savages.
The Hutsis and the Tutsis, that reminds me of Rwanda and the genocide there, and so it was done there as well. So and that's the rhetoric, and I'm glad you brought up the single story, because for those of you who don't know, you can look it up. Adichie is her name, and she does this talk at Oxford University about TED Talk about the danger of a single story. And basically what it says is, if you tell the same narrative, the same story over and over again, maybe in different ways, but it's the same story, then what happens is people come to believe that this is who they are. So a lot of people, the first thing when they hear Muslim, they think, because how many other times do you hear Muslim used in a positive way? It's always terrorism or whatever the case is, right?
But that's what they learn. That's all they see.
That's all you see. So after a while, it becomes reality for them. If every story, every news story, everything is Muslim, so we don't hear anything good, and the Muslim person is not the hero in the movie, right?
It's not about being a hero. So that's the only, for the most part, that's how they're portrayed.
And the portrayal, and that's what I'm saying, even in the movie, the Muslim person is never really the hero. So they're usually the one who's bombing up the place or whatever the case is, so that's the kind of... So how do we change that narrative? What's the role then, the responsibility of the media, or the responsibility of corporations, or the responsibility of Hollywood, to make sure, because a lot of people who live in small towns or whatever, and wouldn't come across you, a Muslim person or whatever, all they see is TV, news. They go to the movies or whatever the case is. What then is the role of the media, of the rest of us in society, especially the media and corporations and stuff like that? What can they do to help change this negative narrative that people have, in your opinion? What do you think?
Well, we can say what they can do, but they're not going to do that.
And
that's the bottom line. It's never.
What do you think they could do?
What I think they can do is really just paint a better picture, and their whole point right now is to keep the masses ignorant. So if they paint a better picture, I'll give you an example. Me playing football, I got to experience different cultures. I call all those guys my brothers. There was Jews, Hispanics, different kind of Africans. You name it, I call a brother. And what helped me with that was understand where they came from and what their belief system is. So there's no understanding of belief system. Let me get to that. Right. So people talk about Islam, how it portrays, how it teaches violence and terrorism and stuff, but it really doesn't. example. Keep going to the example.
Yeah,
right?
keep going.
I was watching Fox News, Sean Hannity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know if we can just do.
Yeah, go ahead.
I can talk about Sean Hannity. Yeah. He was he put something on, says he put a Quran scripture on there in Arabic, and it translated into English saying, when he translated it said that kill all non-believers, blah 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 blah. I read Arabic. That's not what that said. So, but how does a person that doesn't read Arabic know any better?
And the average person doesn't. Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. So you have to experience different cultures, experience different religions, because when you come down to the root of it all, you got Judaism, you got Islam, and Christianity. What are the main basic concepts of them? Respect yourself, respect others. Like, be a good person, golden rule. That's what it comes down to.
You know, the crazy thing is, you said is a lot of times people talk about things and they're not even properly informed. They don't have the facts. This is where education is a good thing, right?
Because it erases ignorance.
Yeah, and not necessarily education in terms of getting a college degree, but exposing yourself to something before you actually talk about it. And I mean, everyone gets to give their opinion, and you know, but not all opinions are good, because not all are based in facts or proper logic, right? A lot of them are people just piggybacking off of what someone else says.
Education. You don't learn it in college. You have to go out there and experience it. College literally doesn't teach you shit.
College is theory.
They still say Christopher Columbus explored America. That doesn't carry any weight.
Yeah. So, knowing what you know now, what would you tell your kids? I mean, we don't know what America is going to look like, you know, whenever you have kids. But let's say 10 years down the road, what would you tell your kids growing up in the U.S.? I mean, well, what would you want to instill in them?
Okay, so my friend Trey, I gotta give him credit for this. He taught me that never make a permanent decision based off temporary situation. Okay. So they're gonna encounter hatred. Yeah. It's still gonna be there. They're gonna encounter racism. Yeah. How do they treat that? They just kill everybody with kindness. Is what I do. I say hi to every single person, you know, man. I say hi to everybody. Yeah. Like, hey, how you doing? Yeah. People just mean like, how you doing, sir? You like, kills them. Because they can't be mean to you. Because they can't be mean to you. Yeah. It's just kind of crazy where the discourse is with that. Well, anyway, thank you very much.